I'm going to speak a little bit more about the miraculous and the power of love, the absolute power of love. Yesterday, being the 25th of December, I phoned a friend of mine in Canada, an elderly lady she's 89, Jamaican lady. And she said to me, if I died today, I'd be the happiest person in the whole world. You see, in July past, she discovered that she had cancer of the stomach, and it was inoperable. So she spent 6 weeks in hospital and had almost died, basically. And she lost a lot of weight, something like 50 pounds, I think. And she was not in a happy place, terribly lost and fearful and a bit down. So I hadn't discovered that she had been ill, and so seriously ill, until a couple of months ago, maximum. So I was straight on her case straight away. First, I sent all the information I could to her family regarding dietary aspects, raw vegetable juicing as well, things which have a very beneficial effect for cancer, because her cancer involved the stomach. I had an awareness in my mind of chia seeds being especially good for the lining of the stomach, and also for energy. The chia seeds are well, they're superfood and is very powerful to assist energy, those lacking in energy. So I mentioned zeolites, I mentioned lots of raw vegetable juicing, especially the carrot. I mentioned cannabis oil. I don't know if she's able to get it or not. I advised her on sugar, that sugar is a feeder of cancer and that she should remove that. She had told me she was taking those artificial sweetener things, so I educated her on that as well. And I told her about meat as well not being good, that it feeds cancer. So she was telling me she took very little meat now anyway, that it makes her feel ill. So of course, yes, your body will start to tell you when you're putting poisonous food in. It will start to react by being uncomfortable and bloated or painful or whatever. She'd asked me to send her healing. I'd given her a crystal years ago when her son had passed. He was a friend of mine, and I'd met her in London at that time. We had a powerful connection at that time. I've mentioned this lady before. And when I had done a healing session on her when I went to Canada some years later, and she'd gone into a trance state, and was talking to her own son and telling me, passing a message from him to me, telling me he was there and she was communicating with him. Now, I never mentioned it to her at the time because I assumed she was fully aware of what she was doing. And she hadn't been, because when I spoke to her on the phone recently, I'd asked her, do you remember when your son Maurice came and visited you when I was visiting us, should I say, when I was doing a healing session on her, and she knew nothing about it. So I had to explain to her. I said, you went into trance and you were absolutely channeling, you were being a clairvoyant. Now, I knew she was a very powerful psychic lady and clairvoyant, so we've had a few conversations on the phone since. So I was reconnecting her with that, and then she started telling me all sorts of seeing spirit dogs and being visited by was it Pope Paul II? Was it not the last Pope, or maybe the one before that, maybe? But having a definite meeting and connection with him, and words of wisdom exchanged. And again, once again, she says, well, you can't speak about these things to most people because they wouldn't understand. They would think you're crazy. So the thing is, they're crazy for not understanding or having awareness that, we can and are so very close to spirit and universal entities and beings. When our heart is opened and our mind is opened and expanded. So when I phoned her yesterday, she was so delighted. She was saying, I feel so much better. The bloatedness that I felt and the uncomfortableness I felt within has gone. She said, I've much more energy. She said, I can go up and down the stairs, and I'm much more enthusiastic now about life. And she cried on the phone for a moment, but it was with joy. She said, I just wish I could hug you. I wish I could embrace you now and hug you. And she thanked me so much. I said, Mabel, I'm absolutely delighted, for all I was doing was reconnecting, helping you to re-establish your connection with your loved ones and your own powerful psychic abilities. I also sent her 2 crystals. I sent her an amethyst, and I sent her a beautiful cut crystal, clear crystal. And she said, these are amazing. I held them, I meditated with them, I held them in the sun, I cleansed, recharged, and asked the spirit world that she's got a direct connection when she holds these. So she's absolutely delighted with them. She said she's eaten a pound of chia seeds. She eats them raw, she munches them, she puts them on her cereal. She's able to eat again. Her enthusiasm is to listen to her yesterday was amazing. The transformation in her, and all because of love. When you make the effort to truly communicate with someone or to truly care about them, miraculous things will and do happen. And like she said herself, it's not so much, that she's been cured if she has been cured, her spirit has been healed and uplifted. So, as she said herself, then it wouldn't have mattered if she'd passed over yesterday, because she feels at peace. She feels at one with her spirit and the spirit of all. So do you see how the miraculous works? The power of love, how it works. We are merely channels, channels of light, sparks of light. When we have ignited that, of course. When we haven't, we're still stumbling about like drunks in the park. Bless all people who are struggling. I'm not laughing. I was laughing at somebody who is lost, because I spent a long enough time being lost myself. Although I never fully gave up on that lostness, I was always searching and seeking. Now, another story of the miraculous occurring, and this does involve someone who had a serious alcohol problem. You'd have to excuse me for one moment, because, yes, you've guessed it, my nose is running again. Oh, what is she rubbing it on? Ah, all right, that's me back. It involved me going to a refurbishment of a bar and restaurant that I was invited along to a few years ago. And I don't really go into that sort of arena anymore. I spent a great many years in those sort of establishments, and I've seemed to have outgrown it eventually. Anyhow, I was there for this opening night, and the place was very busy, lots of trendy people, all well dressed and full of merriment and chat and high energy vibration. And standing in the middle of this was a soul that I know, and I've always known him to be a gentle person, someone who has a problem with alcohol for whatever reasons, but he was basically an alcoholic. He spent all his time in pubs until he was just kind of passing out state, And in that sense, you very much become the loner, people don't really want anything to do with you. So he was swaying, he was rocking back and forward, just reeling, like one of those weebles, able to just about stand on his feet. So I went up and talked to him, and I spoke to him, and I talked to his soul. I said, you may not remember anything I say to you tonight because you are so very, very inebriated. But I want your unconscious mind to remember what we speak about tonight, what I speak to you about. So I told him to remember why he came back here, to remember, what a beautiful soul he is. First, I was telling him what a beautiful soul he is, how much more precious he is than most of the people around and about in the very pub who were laughing at him, like disgusted, looking sort of down their noses at him. I relayed this to him as well. How he was being viewed by others with disgust and disdain. I told him how much more worth this than he was, how much of a more beautiful, pure spirit he was and is than most of the ones around. I'd known this guy only goodness in him, and I could see only goodness. I've known him a long, long, many years. Anyway, With my training in hypnotherapy, I was able to do a lot of talking and work with his unconscious mind, to give him the strength to bring this forward and to have the power to overcome his problem of drinking and to remember who he is and why he is here. So that was about an hour. I told him I loved him, I appreciated him, and for him to love himself, you know. I had to remind him, I had to hold up the mirror to show him how beautiful he was, to remind him how precious he was. And then, after the evening was over, obviously, I went home. Now, a couple of years passed and I was at a funeral. And I'm standing by the graveside and I looks over and I saw him very sober. So I went and had a chat with him. And he told me that he hadn't had a drink for 2 years. I thought, God, that's amazing. That's 2 years. And then he told me the night that he'd stopped drinking after the opening night of the refurbishment in this particular pub and restaurant. See how spirit works? He probably has no idea whatsoever to this day that I had anything to do with that, and that's not important, that there was a middleman. I was only doing my universal duty. But that guy was able to stop instantly at that point. See, miracles happen all the time when we work from a pure heart vibration, when we work from our pure heart center with no ulterior motives. You know, when we're not coming from I want to gain something from this. When there's no agenda involved, then the purest love can stream through. That's how it works, my friends. You know, it's not really rocket science. The nature of the soul, the nature of the loving soul. Now, another interesting one happened again, not so very long ago. I met this lady. I'd met her a few times at gatherings of people. Always a very, very jolly, very lovely natured lady. But she had a young child. Oh, and what a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful child. Little gorgeous. Just a real live, beautiful child. Anyhow, I'd met her at some function and she was drinking Diet Coke. So I had a word with her about the dangers of Diet Coke. And she nearly bit my head off. I thought, whoa, just saying. Realising she had a young child, you know, it's not our business to interfere in anybody's life. She made some comment like, you have to have something you like. I thought, whoa. I was saying, if you're going to drink Coke, I'm just saying it contains aspartame, which is very, very dangerous for the nervous system. That she would be better off just drinking Coca-Cola without it being diet, if that be the case. But I left it at that. I backed off, thought none of my business, just saying. As it turned out, she was looking for a lift to get back. We were traveling in the same direction, and this place where I'd met her was about 30 miles away from there. So I said, no problem, I'll give you a lift back. So during that drive back, she brought up the subject of Diet Coke, actually, and she was saying to me, I can't actually stop drinking it. She said, I'm addicted to it. I've tried to come off it before, and I can't last any more than 3 days. She said, and then the craving, it's almost like being a heroin addict. The craving was so bad, she always went back to drinking it. So I relayed to her then the story of my cousin who'd passed from cancer. I mean, his bone skeletal system just crumbled. And he drank 2 litres of Diet Coke every day. Every day, 2 litres of Diet Coke. And he was the one who said it was this that caused his cancer. He, not me, he. God rest your soul, John. Anyhow, yes, it was just left at that. And a couple of months went by, and I happened to be in a supermarket one day, and I met her again, and she came rushing up to me. What did you do to me? She said, ever since you spoke to me or we had that talk about Diet Coke, she said, I haven't touched it since. I haven't even had any cravings for it. I've had no interest in it, no cravings. She was able to stop instantly from that night. Do you see how almighty powerful the simple is? The simple gift of love, the simple gift of care and thoughtfulness for others. A gift of love, a gift of life. Then you've been of the greatest service to yourself and everyone you come across or whose paths you meet, your paths cross and your reasons fulfilled. There's so many more stories. That's just another few of the miraculous at work, the divinity. We're coming back into that age of consciousness, operating from a consciousness. So just think about that. Every day we're capable of doing some incredible divine works. And it doesn't have to be complicated. But the purer you become, the more it naturally streams to you and through you. Because there's nothing standing in the way of you and being love. When nothing stands in the way, you're just being, a radiant being, observing the natural law of the universe, the law of nature without and the law of nature within. It becomes your nature. You're back in flow, you're back in balance, you're back in finely tuned back in awareness. Becoming awareness. And my goodness, the rewards are mighty. I mean, to listen to that lady yesterday singing down that phone to me with the joy I could hear in her voice and her words. That's the greatest gift I could have ever received in return. And return for what? Just being love and sharing with her openly what I knew, and what I know, and loving her openly, telling her I love her, and her knowing that I love her, not that it's a superficial love. So when we come fully home to our hearts, it really is. The world will and is coming into a beautiful place the more people start to operate from their heart. As a directive, no thought, no agenda, just a natural responsibility. Just doing things because they're the right thing to do. I serve, bringing forth the light in self and assisting bringing forth the light in others. That is all we can do. And when we start to do this more and more and come together, unite, this earth plane will indeed become the most beautiful place that it was designed to be, and that this age is going to unfold into in its fullness. Just remember this. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The miraculous is going to become a natural way. More humans return to the nature of themselves. There is no other way under this constellation of Aquarius. The whole directive of this sign is to bring back everything to full enlightenment and consciousness. Anyway, that's me finished for now. Thank you very much for listening. Oh, goodness. There it is. Bye for now.